Good afternoon, friends. It is very important moment for us to understand about something has become the more poisonous and eating away our life. And this is the diabetes. The entire world is now under the grip of this diabetes, and especially in our country, India, we feel that every next people are now suffering from the diabetes. Now, it is very important to understand why we are getting this type of the problem. And it is also important for us to understand and to see, look into it, and what are the remedial approach that we can do. In our homeopathic system of medicines, we have the understanding about something new. So we are going to look at the diabetes from the angle of the homeopathic approach. Now, let me tell you what is the meaning of the diabetes. Diabetes is usually associated with the sweetness, the lack of the sweetness or excess of the sweetness. But when this sweetness of life lies in the usefulness like honey deep in the heart of clover bloom. This is very important quotation that I have shared with you. The sweetness of life, that it is usefulness of life. How much you feel you are useful for the society. This is very important for us to understand how much we are useful for the society. And if you feel that you are useful and you have the satisfaction, you have and there is your desire is fulfilled, you are going to have a very happiness in your life. Now, usually we celebrate, and all celebration begins with some sweets. There is a very beautiful slogans that is कुछ मीठा हो जाए. Whenever we feel happy, whenever we have the good news, we say talk about the sweets. But but after and even after eating something salty foods, your meal, your dinner, everywhere you somewhere everyone wishes to have some sweet. But when you dislike sweets, when the dislike for the sweets appear, that means you are avoiding the sweetness of the life. Something is missing. So that's why you are not getting closely to the sweetness of the life. Now, the two basic approach for the life is sweet and the salt. And balance in the life is needed to be maintained between the happiness and the sadness. Have to be happy, we have to be sad, and these are the natural alternative phase that used to come in our life during our lifetime. And every day we have some happy moments, and every day we have sad moments. But if we keep remaining sad, or if you keep remaining happy, the imbalance will be created, and this imbalance will create a disharmony in your mentally functions. Now, talking about the diabetes, it is a thief, robber of the sweetness in the life. Diabetes has been acclaimed as metabolic disorder in which a person cannot metabolize sugar in the blood. This is at the physical level. At, at this level of blood sugar, known as glucose rise, especially over a prolonged period of years, the sugar becomes toxic to the number of systems in the body, including the cardiovascular system. So, when you are not properly using the happiness, what happens? Usually, it gets accumulated and it starts, and the accumulations leads into the toxicity, and this toxicity is creates a problem for your physiological functions and the organs. Diabetes comes from the fear of fully participating in the life. When you don't feel that you are happy with the situation, so great need for control and to know the things, and deep inside need for the attention and approval, constant craving for love with a belief that you are unworthy or unobserved. When you have the craving for the love, when you are, that means you feel that you are deprived with the love. You want some love in your life, and we all wish to have the someone should love us. We have the parents, we have the family life, we have the friends, but friends we seek the attention from. So deep-seated guilt, belief we have to struggle to survive, can often lose yourself in the relationship. And constant need for sweetness to mask the feeling of weakness, limitations, and belief that there is no not enough. Now, the cell of our body needs glucose to produce energy. How we get the energy? Only because when you burn the glucose in metabolic process, the glucose is burned and we get the energy. And especially our brain, the main food is only the glucose. Glucose need to be at the certain level for the brain to function normally. After we eat, sugar level normally rises in the body, triggering a release of a hormone called insulin from cells in the pancreas called beta cells. Insulin knows how to open the door of all our cells in the body, allowing glucose to enter them. As glucose enters the cells, sugar level drops and are off until we eat again. Friends, when we eat, the pancreas automatically produces the right amount of insulin to move glucose from blood into the cell. In people with diabetes, the pancreas either produces a little or no insulin, and or the cell do not respond appropriately to the insulin that is produced, and glucose build up in the blood, overflows into the urine, and passes out of the body of the. So happiness is thrown away. Happiness is thrown away. The sweetness is thrown away through the your excretory systems. Thus, the body loses its main source of fuel, even though the blood contains large amount of the fuel. You say that sitting before the river, you feel you are a thirsty person. You feel thirsty sitting before them. The water is spread everywhere, but you are not unable to drink the water. You so surrounded by the water, surrounded by the everything, wealth, everything, but you are not getting the right, not able to utilize them. This is the things that is eating you away, and that makes you sick with the diabetic condition. There are, it has been acclaimed that there are the two types of the diabetes. Diabetes 1, it is the autoimmune disease, and autoimmune disease results when the body system for fighting infection, the immune system turned against a part of the body. In diabetes, the immune system attack and destroy the insulin producing beta cell in the pancreas. The pancreas then produces little or no insulin. A person who has type 1 diabetes must take insulin daily to live. And then second is the type 2 diabetes. You see, that is the most common form of diabetes is the type 2 diabetes. About 90 to 95% of the people with the diabetes have the type 2. This form of diabetes is most often associated with the older age, obesity, family history of diabetes, previous history of gestational diabetes, physical inactivity, and certainty of ethnicity. So this is about the diabetes. Type 2 diabetes is basically related and closely related to your lifestyle, the process that is going on. Now, what are the predisposing factors for the type 1 diabetes? The first of all, it is the genetic predisposing type. Then a strong concordance of the type 1 diabetes in monozygotic twins suggests a major role for the genetic factors. The major histocompatibility complex antigen are thought to be important. Most type 1 diabetes shows either DR3 or DR4, whilst DR2 is thought to be protective against the diabetes. Friends, then this auto antibodies in type 1 diabetes isolate cells. Auto antibodies are present at diagnosis but will gradually decline and disappear in ensuing years. This means that if there is diagnostics uncertainty, isolated cells antibodies can be checked early during the presentations. Friends, and then about the type 2 diabetes with increasing prevalence of obesity. More children are now presenting with type 2 diabetes. Latent autoimmune diabetes in adult LADA is thought to be to comprise about 5% of all patients with the type 2 diabetes. Then monogenic diabetes. Monogenic diabetes is the term used for a collection of conditions that causes diabetes, now shown to result from single gene defects. One feature of this condition is that they show autosomal dominant inheritance pattern where the disease type appears in bivertical transmitted. Now, it is now becoming more convinced that there is an intimate and dynamic relationship between what is going on with our feelings and thought and what happens in the body. Mind effects on the organ related to the diabetes, it changes the body. So the mind is the controlling pattern. There are the understanding about the diabetes that it is because of the imbalance of the eating and the lifestyle and excesses of the sugar. No, sugar will be assimilated only when the mind, the ruler, the guiding factors, the supreme authority for your body and the life is at the command. So mind effects on organ related to the diabetic changes in the body. Now, friends, according to the homeopathic treatment, the patient is to be treated first and not his organ. We are not treating the pancreas, we are not treating the insulin system, we are not treating the beta cells or whatever the term that is being used. So in diabetes, diabetic mellitus, our objective of treatment in patient himself, not the pancreas, not the beta cell. So the constitutional treatment is the only way for radical cure of diabetic mellitus, along with proper diet control and regular exercise. Our aim is not merely to bring down the blood sugar level, but to have improvement in both subjective and objective sphere of the patient's life. Friends, beautiful quotations from the Hippocrates is stand true for the patient of that. If someone wishes for good health, one must first ask oneself if he is ready to do away with the reason for his illness. Only then it is possible to help him. If you don't want the help, nobody is going to help you. If you don't express your desire for the willingness, for the change, if you want to change, you will get the change. If you don't want the change, nothing on this world. So no pills will able to change your life if you are not interested. So it is the reciprocal process where both you have to get activated to receive the blessings of the medicines. According to Dr. Henneman, there cannot be, strictly speaking, any local disease of the living organism. The organism is a living, indivisible whole which act and react as a whole. Any disturbance in the nature of dynamic changes is never confined to a specific part of the organism in the sense that the rest of the body does not participate in the dynamic changes produced by any means. And the role of the emotions. The emotions are and emotions when become uncontrolled. If the emotions don't have the intelligence, the concept of the love is central to the understanding and managing diabetes. The role of emotion factor in the etiology of diabetes has been source of debate. However, personality traits of diabetic patients have been studied, and many researchers have noted similarity in the of the configurations. And the personality, what type of the personality the diabetic people used to get? The personality character is linked with the symbolic language of pancreas. The pancreas is linked to the solar plexus that deals with the emotions, with wishes and intellectual activity. So the basic role for the pancreas is to control and manage as a solar plexus of the emotions. Diabetic are found to be more emotional and harbor many wishes for themselves and others. They tend to reproach themselves with discontentment of others. They spend much energy fulfilling the inner need of their emotions, and there is associated inner sadness from an unrequited unquitted love. The pancreas represents the sweetness of the life. Friends, there is another type of the diabetes which is becoming very common nowadays, and it is known as the juvenile diabetes. It juvenile means ki it happens to the children who feel insufficiently acknowledged in the thought. The problem of the pancreas stems from individual not believing they deserve love. There is a huge inability to feel part of the whole and give and receive the balanced body. When the child feels deprived or he is deprived, he is deserted, the problem of the imbalance starts. It's the sweetness of the life that child, it is said that the childhood is the most sweetest aspect of your life. But when this sweetness of the aspect of the life is taken away, the people can get the children can become the juvenile have the diabetes. Yes, there are the factors also associated with the genetic factors that leads towards the juvenile diabetes. And the problem now we are going to look at the probable mental causes for the diabetes. Longing for what might have been a great need to control, deep sorrow, no sweetness left, pancreatitis, rejections, anger, and frustration because life seems to have lost its sweetness. Mental attitude, refusing to give, take the form of deliberately withholding self from others, fear of never being able to have enough, thinking self does not have enough to give, therefore being stingy with how one gives, desire to give and hold back, this fear of losing from giving, attitude of self righteousness, which is selfishness, conditionally gives and receiving the jealousy. So these are the one of the important causes that you can get find in every patient. Now, constitutional anti-miasmatic treatment along with the due stress on preventive measures plays significant role in radical cure of patients suffering from the diabetes and also preventing long-term complications. Friends, the in homeopathy we basically associate every disease with the miasma, and for the diabetic also the miasma are the basic role, the sora. The primary is the sora, where secondary causes, especially the psychological stress, are the main responsible factor causing functional disturbance in the disease pathogenesis of type 2 diabetes. Sora is the dominating factor behind the disease process. Then comes the psychosis. It is the second stage. The pathogenesis of type 2 diabetes include in NIDDM, insulin resistance, inability to peripheral tissue to respond to insulin, and abnormality of glucose respiration and B cell of pancreatitis are the primary causes rather than inadequacy of insulin. So, incoordination is the sole factor in the disease process. Therefore, the psychotic mind should be present there. So, you have seen the psychosora playing and beginning stage where the psychological stars are there, and then where it becomes unmanageable, the conditions of the psychosis arises, and lastly, it is the syphilis in the pathogenesis of type 1 diabetes, where destruction of the cell, beta cells is the sole cause for the disease. A syphilitic miasma should be present in this disease process. Friends, according to Hahnemann, Samuel Hahnemann stated in his chronic disease that diabetes is a soric manifestation. As per the above knowledge, the different pathogenesis we can consider this statement as the prime true, and on the field of basic sora, other miasm, psychosis and syphilis can build up their own manifestations accordingly. So these are the and many stalwarts feel that it is a mixed miasma, that is sora, syphilis, and the psychosis. So it is mixed mathematic also. But you have to, and this helps, this understanding will help you to understand the stages of the diabetes. It is the soric stage, psychotic stage, or the syphilitic stage. So it is the developmental factors that you can think about when you think about in the considering the miasmatic factors. Now, there are some several factors and homeopathic remedies I am going to discuss, but don't get it uh, assured that these medicines are working, because the medicines will work until and unless they are constitutionally and totality of the similar based on the similarity is matching with the patient. So genetic defects or beta cells functions or insulin actions, there are the medicines like DNA, and then other nosors, carcinosin, medorinum, tuberculinum, and the syphilinum. You can select from them. You can, but have consideration. It is only advice. It is not the guideline. Complete. You have to depend on it. Then DM resulting from disease of exocrine pancreas. Arsenic album, Barita mure, Calcaria ars, Carboenamalis, Carbovage, conium, hydrestis, iodine, iris vasculus, calibacrom, caliard, mercsol, nectrum sulf, nux vomica, pancreatinum, parathyroidism, phosphorus, and uranium nitricum. And diabetic resulting from the endocrinopathy, that is Barita carcinosin, pituitary posterior, ACTH, cortinosins and corticoid, adrenalinum, iodine, ferrum, netramure, sepia, thyroidinum, and the phosphorus. Then drug and chemically induced diabetes, agaricus, agnus cast, arsenic album, bryonia, camphor, carbon sulf, carbovage, china of coffea, corticoferin, corticocin, hydrestis can, caliad, lacasis, laurosis, magnesia sulf, netramune, nitric acid, nux vomica, opium, phosphoric acid, pulsatilla, uh, pulsatilla, sickle core, sulfur, thuja, thyroidina. Then there are some diabetes, the infections, carcinosin, medorinum, tuberculinum, syphilinum, silicea, parotidinum, penicillinum, streptococcinum, staphylococcinum. Then gestational diabetes, lactium acidum, helonius, sulfur. And immune mediated diabetes, DNA, nosors, carcinosin, medorinum, tuberculinum, and the syphilinum. Now, evolving the therapeutic index, how you have to approach your clinical approach. First, repertoire the symptoms that you have collected from after the complete case taking. You have to analyze the symptoms and you have to repertoire. So, clinical rubrics of the diabetes, common symptoms, universal complications of diabetes, the role of love in the diabetes. Then study the repertorial filter and focusing on polycrest should be there on the polycrest remedy. Then evaluating the remedy data through materia medica and clinical experiences. Developing the therapeutic index in order to of their importance in clinical practice and not necessarily on quantity of the marks. The filter being used as an entry point for point more. Then I'm giving you some of the list that you can get in the synthesis repertory. That diabetic insipidus, it contains 92 medicines. The list is very wide. Then 195 medicines is the diabetes mellitus. Then under the chapter urine, you will find that sugar, and it is also related to the diabetes, and 149 medicines are listed here. Now, some of the useful therapeutic experiences I am going to share with you. Codanium, when there is excessive skin irritation, itching due to diabetes mellitus. Phosphoric acid, with diabetic mellitus starts after some nervous exhaustion, working too hard, or disappointment in relationship, Remedies like gunpowder, staphylococcus, and malicious alternum are extremely useful for the diabetic nerve, carbuncle, and gangrene. And remedies like urea, pura, ampulosis, quinquefolia are extremely useful in the diabetic neuropathy. Now, what is diabetic neuropathy? The peripheral neuropathy is a common complication of diabetes and may appear at the first manifestation of the disease. It is likely to occur in even the mildest case of the diabetes. And antisyphilitic remedies are noted here. Orums, mercurius, zincum, phosphorus, phosphate, kali magnesium, cuprum, strontium, plumbum, etc. Ashwagandha mother tincture can be tried in neuropathy. A case of diabetic neuropathy where the patient was unable to sleep due to the pain, tingling and numbness of the leg was helped with the zincum sulfur, and one more case where burning of the soul was the prominent symptoms can got better from this zincum metallic. Now, diabetic neuropathy is an important cause for the end stage renal failure. So in such case, uh, uh, Kupramars responded quickly. He was restored to consciousness, started passing urine, and at least a few months dialysis was not needed. Then diabetic retinopathy. This is another important effects of the diabetes you can see. Diabetic it is a result of the microvascular retinal changes, hyperglycemia induced intramural pericytes death and thickening of the basement membrane lead to the to incompetence of the vascular wall. This damage changes the formation of the blood retinal uh, barrier and also make the retina blood vessels become more permeable. So our medicines indicated maybe the carbon, naphthalene are often indicated. Friends, I am going to share a case with you only to make you aware how to proceed. Not it is not you have to use these medicines that I have discussed earlier now. It is that these are only the guidelines. It is only the therapeutic and the best therapeutic in homeopathy is the totality of the symptoms that you get after proper case taking, proper case study, proper case analysis, and then after the proper repertorial analysis and comparing the different medicines and arriving at the right situation. So now this is a case that I handled in 2018, and it is 61-year-old lady presented with the weakness in general, muscular pain all over the body, tearing pain in the leg, numbness and tingling in the legs while walking and sitting, coldness of extremities, frequent urinations, and blurredness of the vision. Now, with that, the patient has got pain in the joints, especially knee, sleeplessness after breakfast, desire to remain in bed all the time, and frequent vomiting with the indigestions. And past history, she had suffered from the cyst in the knee, which was operated in 97, polypus in uterus. Then father had suffered from her depressions. Mother was diabetic. She had one brother and two sisters. Married at the age of 24 years. Husband retired government official and he is diabetic. One son and two daughters, and they are okay. Life situation, mental and physical features. She is a retired teacher, liked working to remain busy, loves this content with, she was discontented with the life situation, easily affected by contradictions. Gardening was a loving factor for always hurried, fond of eating too much, desire for the sweets and aversion for the meat, fasting aggravates, and flatulence after the eating. So we reporterize the case taking the following rubrics: the diabetic mellitus, neurological complaints that accompanied by the diabetes, occupations of ambulance, censorious, element from contradictions, discontented, diabetic mellitus, and numbness, feet, sitting aggravates. The Helonius was the medicines, and this medicines we this is a uh, this is the Metra Medica of Helonius. Sadness aggravate on seeing other happy, with aversion to company. Amulets when keep busy, occupation of the mind, doing something, restless, irritable from contradictions, fault finding, hysteria. And when she think of, when the patient think about the complaints, it aggravates. And better by the mental diversions. Warm air was emulating factor, weakness are there, weak diabetes are there. So many symptoms that you can are listed under this rubric. We observe that this Helonius is very much close to this patient. So uh, now we transmitted the Helonius diaspora on gene 0 by 1 potency on 13th of the March, reported on 25th March 18. Numbness was much better. Report on 23rd April 2018. Insulin intake reduced to 10 units only. Feeling energetic and numbness in tingling is no more. Treatment is continued. Patient used to offer, come again and again, and with this, the intake of the insulin has been greatly reduced, and the patient is feeling happy life. So now, what are the some of the useful uh, preventive measures that you can think? Reduce sedentary lifestyle, working and there should be a balance between the rest and the work. Care of gums helps control diabetes. Lack or too much sleep raises if you don't have the sleep or you have too much sleep, both increases the diabetes. Breastfeeding reduces mother diabetic risk. The mother stress triggers diabetes in kids. Re- Reduce waistline lowers the diabetes and heart risk. A spinal cord shrinks in diabetic neuropathy. Hepatitis C linked to type 2 diabetes, and psychotherapy helps control diabetes. And the best and the beautiful medicine is laughter, which cuts the blood sugar level. Friends, the treatment of diabetic mellitus in homeopathy is extremely effective, but the people do not come to us at the early stage, and hence, once the pathology is advanced, we can only we can cannot cure, but we can improve the condition. Friends, I feel that there should be the integrated approach for the medicines. When the patient is dependent on the insulin should be continued, and by the side with that, the homeopathic medicines can be prescribed. This can help you to treat the patient and keep them maintain their well-being. So it is sweetness to let the mind unbended on the occasion. So sweet is to let the mind unbend on the occasion, and we have to be positive. This is very important message for us. And freedom is the state of the mind. And if you have the freedom, you have the you will feel that you are don't have the. So thank you, friends. Thank you very much for listening me. And I hope you can have a better insight into the diabetes, and you will feel much better with this. So thank you very much. And with this, I come to the end of my presentations, and I hope we can get a better understanding about the subject. If you have any questions, you can ask me on my email ID or on my WhatsApp number. Definitely, I am going to reply to you. Thank you. Thank you very much.